So that's the problem that I've been trying to fix. Like, how do you design a feature that is not just an MVP, but an MLP? And essentially what that is the most lovable product. You've probably been there as well. So it's like, What is, like, for you, like, what's the difference between like an MVP and something that's actually useful?
An MVP is something that barely survives. It's MVP to me, I'd always translate it to good.
You're officially live.
We are officially live, exactly. I mean, this is just an experiment. All right, so Tyler, you sent me a message on Slack recently, on something you've been working on. And after looking at it, I was like, wow, that's interesting. I want to hear more, but I think everyone else should hear more about it too. And drum roll, tell me about it. What have you been working on?
Yeah, so I had like the beginning of the year, I had this thesis of like, it's going to be the year of the builder. And what that just means is that we have these new tools and it basically enables everyone to build anything, regardless of if you're a developer or not. So that essentially just extends beyond the typical developer roles. I've been talking a lot about it, but I haven't been doing a lot of doing about it. So what I did was I challenged myself. It's like, hey, you talk a lot about like designers are going to be able to kind of code and ship things to production. Why not test it out? So I set a goal for myself on a weekend to basically create a SaaS product and then push it live by the end of the weekend. And the results were I was able to do it.
Congratulations.
So it's not a Claude vibe coded thing that just has a URL. It's something that you can actually go to my website, register, log in, play around, and get some value out of, which like totally shocked me. I'll tell you, I used a couple tools, because what was the kind of catalyst for this whole thing is that I finally downloaded, I reopened a Cursor, and then based on some research, I decided to just have Cursor build it for me. I was like, this is possible. So I had my tech stack for the weekend was essentially Claude and Cursor, and let me build this idea. So essentially for the last like maybe 6 months or so, I've been obsessed with this idea of kind of tracking designs, I guess, value or ROI, when it's kind of very hard sometimes to kind of track that value because you're part of a team. It's not just you. You're playing this collaboration game with PMs, with engineering team, and then it's hard to pinpoint like, well, what did I do? It's like, and that also goes back to like how you create a portfolio. So what I did was I created a SaaS product, which is essentially the output of a workshop that I like to run at the beginning of projects. And I call it the builder kickoff. And essentially what that is that you're sitting with design, engineering, and product, and you have a new problem that you like to solve. And typically what happens is that designers, we have this problem, we create this amazing dream design, and then you're like, hey, let's build it. But then inevitably when you start your sprint, you present it to engineering, and then there's this speak of like scope. So like, essentially, so we have this amazing design that we want to get implemented, but essentially what happens is that you get hacked to pieces and you have this smaller version of what once was an amazing feature. And because you've kind of hacked at it, it doesn't look, it doesn't resemble anything valuable in the end. So that's the problem that I've been trying to fix. Like, how do you design a feature that is not just an MVP, but an MLP? And essentially what that is the most lovable product. You've probably been there as well. So it's like, What is, like, for you, like, what's the difference between like an MVP and something that's actually useful?
MVP is something that barely survives. It's MVP to me, I'd always translate it to good enough, that we do not make anyone angry, and that it shows promise, or that it could become something useful after multiple versions. So my view of the MVP is actually quite negative. Like it's potential unrealized, basically.
Exactly.
And then the MLP sounds to me like I know what it is. I've seen people talk about it, but I've not encountered it on a job, basically, where someone said like, well, let's do an MLP. So for me, it's purely theoretical. but it sounds to me like it's a few versions beyond an MVP. It's an MVP plus, basically.
Yes, exactly. So an MVP is essentially you can facilitate getting the user's job done, so they can use the tool and they can achieve the goal, which is like they need to do a thing, and then it gets them there. What an MLP essentially is like they love, like it's a happy experience, and they want to try it again. So it's basically a retention play. So the feature is great. It's at the threshold of being good enough for them to kind of love the experience and then try again. So it's not one of these ship and like, I can get the job done, but I don't love it.
Right.
The consequence is that it makes your product sticky overall, which is what you want. Like there's two essentially parts of a business. Is like the core, what they sign up for, and then getting new business. The core part is the retention play.
Right. That's true. So an MLP, sorry if I'm too down into the details now, but let's say it's an onboarding. Like onboarding is very crucial to get people on board. But it's not something you do more than once. So when you're like, they want to do it again, is that figuratively or is that literally, I want to upload another file?
Yeah, I think onboarding is a bit different, but we can still apply the same math here. So for example, if you're looking at two different experiences, so onboarding is essentially just a series of forms that you want to sign up, that facilitate having someone go. Right. How you would build that as an MVP is just essentially that: build a bunch of forms that need to be completed, and then they're done. An MLP version of that might include turning on the ability to autofill some of the form fields based on your browser history. So you've seen it on your phone, on your desktop. If you click name, it has like pre-fill with all your saved information. It'll enter your first name, last name, address, email address, and it's all filled. And then it gets me to my destination quicker. So like the value add there is quicker to completion, because onboarding is in general are annoying to fill out, but the value to the business and the user in the end is that because we gathered this information, we can make the back end of the experience more pleasant because we have some context to who you are and what you need to do within the platform.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so you have, I think that's the core of our talk. So you've been able to put all the AI hype, all the tool hype, and all the you don't need Figma anymore type talk into practice. You've been able to make something that works and adds value and makes sense in a weekend, basically.
Exactly. So at the end of the weekend, high level, my product is that it takes that workshop recording. So like basically in that workshop, you discuss a feature, you define scope immediately. So you're basically you're setting a boundary. So you're setting the scope. Are we willing to invest one sprint, two sprint, more sprints to this feature at the beginning? And then what that connects to is like the business outcome. So like we're investing this amount of work or money, and eventually we're going to have to break even, and then it has to be ROI positive, meaning it's going to have to make us money over the long term. So we're defining what that time frame is, and then we're discussing, and then we're essentially adding tickets to a FigJam board and discussing what features we can add. And then the last stage is which one of these stickies fits into the scope.
Right.
That's high level. That's what it is. It's basically just defining scope early so that the designer can design the scope only, and then they can make that experience beautiful versus going big and shrinking.
Right.
It's a very simple exercise, but like the ROI is like on speed and also execution. I've done one of these exercises before where I ran an hour session and I was able to design the feature in the next day. Super simple because I have all the constraints. I have all the constraints from the developer team because they're involved early. I have the business side from the PM, and then I have my UX kind of intuition there. And then in the end, I can execute quickly because we have a design system in place, etc.
Right. Okay. So it's also helping you. It's already a tool on your belt.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's like the methodology of the platform. So essentially we're taking that recording, uploading it to the software that I built. And essentially what it does, it creates almost like a Jira or a Notion, all the tasks that need to be done.
Right.
But instead of being the traditional project management tool, it's gamified a bit. So instead of the value, or like what you do in a typical project management tool, is just move things along the different columns. It's backlog, it's in progress, it's in review, it's complete.
Yeah.
And the carrot at the end of the stick is basically just the complete column.
Right.
So I thought to myself, what would make this experience a bit more engaging? And my thought was, what if I associated a monetary value to the project and also to the task? So as you move things along those different verticals, if I put something to complete, I get to see how much ROI or money I've generated by completing that task.
Right.
So imagine the task, the project is create a landing page, and then the tasks are do the design, do the copy, do the development piece. 10 grand divided into 4, 25, 25, 25. I've then been gamified to see the value of my tasks. And then in addition to that, I have a little analytics dashboard that basically shows you how much revenue you've generated over the last month or couple months.
Nice.
So that's like at the core of the idea is basically just tracking your value. But I'm starting with the persona of the product designer, and the idea is just like, I want to know what my impact is. Like, how much business impact am I having on the task that I'm completing?
Yeah. I imagine that being useful at the end of the year for your review and your salary increase negotiation. I mean, you can just pull up Tyler's dashboard. Like, look at this dashboard. I've generated X amount of revenue. You know, it helps you in your negotiations or contract talks even.
Exactly. Like, I think I was looking at it as for two personas. One is the in-house person, but it might be more valuable to the freelancer as well. So generally when you're taking up contracts, you're doing work, but if you're able to track it using the software, you're able to show clear ROI to the business or the person that's hiring you. Like, this is what we did, and I've documented it.
Yeah, I mean, of course. I mean, that's, especially as a freelancer, it's very useful. Practical example is that usually what I'm noticing now and what I'm starting today also for a new project is, you think something, let's say something takes 6 months, you know, it takes 6 months, but because you're new, like you need to build that connection between yourself and the client, you know, trust and proof basically that you can do the job. So they're not paying you for 6 months right away, they're paying you for 1 month. Yeah. So in that first month as a freelancer, you really have to show your value. You know, show you that it's worth hiring you for the remaining 5. And so far, I'm going by gut. Like, you know, I'm really listening to the problems that they being the client, that they are experiencing, and really making sure that it's, you know, the thing I'm designing in the first month, that it's better looking or better feeling. And then you just have to trust your gut that it's also what they feel in their gut. You know, but there are no numbers involved. You know, you run the risk of them saying at the end of the month, like, yeah, it's all good and nice, but I'm not feeling it, you know? And that's a very sucky thing to hear, like, I'm not feeling it. If you have some sort of number from a dashboard or ROI or anything more specific, I think it really helps as a freelancer to survive and get the rest of the deal. So yeah, I think it sounds very promising what you're making.
Yeah, because I think, like, to that point, like, to close the loop, it's essentially just, once you've launched something, is to check what it actually did for the business. Did it increase conversions? Did it generate X outcome? And that's what I've kind of included in the dashboard. So you have essentially, when you create the tasks, I've created a model that is trained on, like, the values for different types of tasks, but it's an estimated value. But, like, once you've kind of completed the project, there's an input at the very bottom for what actually happened. So, like, the flow facilitates tracking the project goal and then the actual outcome.
Nice.
So you can properly use the tool, which trains, like, I'm trying to train designers to kind of think in, like, when we do work, we have to validate that it did a thing so that we're facilitating that great experience between the designer and the business to show our value, and that they know what value that we're giving in a monetary sense, because that's, like, at the end of the day, that's all a business or a CEO cares about. Are we generating money from the value that we're delivering to our clients?
Yeah. Did it make sense to hire this person?
Yes.
In the end. So you're saying training designers. It does make me think about something you've shown me recently about a workshop, I think, that you're giving. And now this tool is also aimed at the workshops. But you are teaching a group of designers how to do your way of working. right? And I
Yes.
think the tool fits there.
Yes. If
I
I'm
think
thinking about the funnel, because I'm always thinking about the funnel, that's how, if I were to
funnel vision.
actually, this is essentially just like something that I'm playing with. That's fun. It's not to say that I'm leaving my job tomorrow to do it, but I think I just wanted to test theory. But I'm thinking about the funnel of how and I'm going to be kind of documenting this over the next kind of year to see, just as a fun project to show. But essentially, the funnel is you would run the workshop, which is teaching people how to run that facilitation and builder workshop where you're getting everyone involved. And then I would train them on doing that. And the upsell would be to subscribe to the application, to take the output of that conversation and track the project over time.
Yeah. I mean, I imagine you'll fine tune and improve this tool as you go and as you discover more things.
Of course.
Yeah. So now, when this comes out, it's I think early, like start of April. But are you doing any type of workshops? And when you're saying that you're documenting this, like where can people read or see more about this or even participate in it?
Yeah, so like the product is live now. You can register. It's clunky, but it works at saasifyos.com. You can log in and register. But to follow the journey, I'm getting a lot of feedback from my newsletter lately that this is the type of content that they want to see, which is like what kind of pushed me in this direction. So if you subscribe to my newsletter, I'm going to be on a weekly basis documenting the progress of like building the SaaS product. And then you can be, because my newsletter is tailored as designers, you can reach out to me and I can user test this software with you.
Nice. So, and subscribing to the newsletter, that's the same website, I imagine. There's probably a call to action somewhere at the top or the bottom.
Yes, there's a newsletter link in the main nav.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great way to, let's say you're an entry level designer, you're learning and you're curious about like modern way of working as a designer. I think it's a very smart thing to get as close as you can to this, because it's a chance to work with you, a seasoned designer, learn about the day to day, basically. I think it will be very useful for anyone who's listening to take a look there and participate.
Yeah, I think I just want to document the journey of, like, again, like I'm really pushing, like the market has changed. There's a lot of designers looking for work. I think there's a big opportunity for designers to be amazing founders one day. So this is just the idea that I want to push forward. So I just want to be transparent, show how you might do it to get the ball rolling, to get more designers to start their own thing.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's something more people are saying. And I think I agree, because we have this different way of looking at it, but then we used to have the tech skill gap, basically. But then with these tools, like you can put something together in a weekend. Imagine how much more refined and more powerful it is if you would keep working on it for like 10 more weekends.
Exactly.
You used to need a technical co-founder for it. I think you can now get it to some sort of validation level where you can see that a product, that there's a need for it. And then you go for a developer or security people, so yeah, design founded companies. I think that makes a lot of sense. But then again, I'm a designer, so of course I'm team designer.
Of course. Yeah. And it's it's easier than you think. Like Cursor, you don't have to write a stitch of code. You're using the prompting tool. And then you can just talk to it and have it build based on recommendations. Funny enough, I actually used Claude Code to user test or run usability studies on my actual application, which is fun. So Chrome has a Claude extension that allows you to kind of pop open a side nav and then ask it to do stuff. You can actually do stuff on your behalf if you wanted to.
Yeah.
But essentially every once in a while, I'm like, okay, pretend I added a prompt, pretend you're a principal product designer running a usability study, doing accessibility, etc. Go. And then it did its thing and navigated my app on my behalf while I was doing other things. And then gave me a report of all the things that I'll have to fix, which was the input to Cursor to fix. Like, hey, found this stuff, fix it, go. There's a validation step in between, but essentially, like, that cycle works really well.
How did it do? How did the AI review do according to your design standards?
I did a pretty decent job. Like I found some things that it missed, obviously. Like there was a point where the app was missing, the buttons were disappearing and it didn't catch it because obviously it can't catch what it can't see. But it does a pretty decent job because it has access to like the code because it does inspect element and then it has access to CSS. Like it does a really decent job.
Okay. Interesting. That's probably a whole different discussion, like artificial user testing without users. Does it make sense? Yes or no? I know some people who are very outspoken about it. But anyway, like, so what's next for your weekend tool? Like, because I imagine there's much more in the pipeline.
Yeah, I think next step for me is to do, to be fair, next week I'm going on vacation, so nothing's happening this weekend.
If I code on your phone.
Yeah, no, I'm not bringing my laptop or technology on vacation. I am just fully disconnecting. But next step for me is I'm going to run some user tests. So I'll probably reach out to some people, do some recording. I'm going to be documenting this whole process. So documenting those user tests and then following like the typical like product development cycle. I'll just user test, get some feedback, see what I improve, see what next feature I have to roll out. And improve and iterate. This is essentially it.
What's your ambition here for this particular tool? Like, is it just something for yourself and writing about it as a way to get your thoughts into the world, or do you think this could be some sort of revenue for you, like a nice little bonus on the side? Or
I think it could. I think it definitely could. I think outside of like me documenting and trying to generate revenue, I think it's like a really powerful tool that's probably top of mind or be very useful now. Like tools are generating code or generating features very quickly and cheaply. I think what's becoming more important is the discovery phase and that kind of earlier on stage of like crafting ideas and strategy. This tool facilitates that.
Right. That makes sense. I mean, I just think this is a wonderful time to be in as a designer. Like you have this wait a minute moment. I could have a tool here that really helps me. I'm doing repetitive work. What if I had this tool? You can start a brainstorm session with your agent of choice, and before you know it, you have something that works within a weekend. I mean, isn't that great?
It is. And then the big insight for me is that the design part was the hardest part to do.
Yeah.
So like it was built in like Tailwind React TypeScript.
Nice.
I was really focused on like the core functionality. And then I was like, I came to this moment. How do I make this pretty?
We're safe. We're safe.
It definitely cannot do that because that was one of my prompts, make it pretty. But a bit more steps to that, but it really couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So I saw a clear gap of like, it can create amazing things that are like functionally very impressive. But the UX and like the aesthetic part is the hardest. It was the hardest part for me.
Yeah. I feel like one of those LinkedIn gurus. I really want to shout about taste now.
You should.
Yeah. I do not have the visual websites available that really fit today's styling, I think. And not saying that in a self-pity way, just more observing. Like I have not something following design trends, I would say.
I think that's probably the best. Like a lot of sites are looking, or sites, apps, they're all looking the same because they follow the same framework, aesthetics. Like, again, design is the differentiator. If it looks different, then it'll stop the person to take a look.
True. It's a classic design theory. You have to do something unexpected. Like really makes me think about 13 years ago when I had a design internship back in university. Like you get assigned a very senior colleague at the company. That's your mentor, and I was in luck. I had a 50-something mentor with 20 or 30 years of experience, and he taught me so much. But then one of the key things I still remember is I had to design a lead magnet page, and then there you would show the visual of the lead magnet, the document, and I just put it on the page. And he was like, no, just rotate it slightly. It's not something you expect. Everything's straight, and then that thing is slightly off, and then that makes people go like, huh? And then they pay attention because it's not what their mind, fills in just before they see it.
Mm-hmm.
And then he twisted the paper corner a little bit also in Photoshop still. So yeah, that's true. What you're saying made me think of a very inspiring mentor I had, like in the really early days of my career.
That's a powerful, those small tricks that you learned really are powerful things. I had similar thing.
Yeah.
One of my mentors when I first started was an SEO guy, which
Really?
is like, which was a really interesting, like I was trying to do design stuff and he's like, this is how you optimize a page for SEO. This is how you would place this thing for highest conversion, which is like probably very similar to you. Like those small little tricks like carry forward and still useful today.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. It's very interesting how some people can just make, in one sentence, they make a big difference in your career, basically. Yeah. So I'm really looking forward to all the updates you have on your tool. And just again, a reminder for people listening that they can follow all about it on your website. What was it again?
Yeah, it's saasifyos.com. So that's SAASIFYOS.
That's I'll memorize it, and we'll put it in the show notes and description and all that stuff.
Or you can just follow me on LinkedIn as well. It's the same difference.
Same difference. I like it. Yeah. So not too self-promoting this, but because I really think it's useful. I'm hyped for it at least.
Yeah, I think the main goal for me is not to generate revenue. It's just if I can push more designers to kind of start building their own things, that's what I'd love to see. Like you have you have great product and design knowledge because you're able to now build things. Like the world is yours.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm doing a ton of it on my own as well. Help me automate stuff, but that's probably for another episode. Talking about another episode, I think the next like 2 or 3 probably, because we have a schedule, I think really tie into this, because we're talking about building tools, and then next time we're going to talk about why tools do not matter. So that's quite the opposite of this.
I love the juxtaposition.
Yeah. It's all over the place, but still it makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I'm not going to tease beyond that. You have to listen next time to hear the teaser for after the teaser.
Inception. Love it.
Yeah, exactly.
Till next episode then. That was a great episode. So if you like this content and want to hear more, please like and subscribe.
Yeah, and if you want to see more, please go to designtablepodcast.com, Spotify, Apple Music, all the big players. And